Word Balloon, celebrating 16 years of excellence for you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's time again for Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, a special holiday edition of Word Balloon Live. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. I hope we all remember our troops and their contributions as well this weekend. We couldn't have done it without them. Would have been a very different world. But speaking of a man who makes a lot of different worlds in his business, it's Tim Seeley back on Word Balloon. Welcome, my man.
Thanks for having me, man. That was a sweet animated intro, too.
You like that?
Badass, yeah, that was good.
William Meyer, he made that for me 8 years ago, 2013. And I wasn't doing video consistently. I'm like, God, I should do more video. And it took me, 7 years. And then I finally started doing more videos. So now I use it.
Yep.
So there you go. Everybody, hello.
I on video, so I didn't shave. I kind of look kind of rough. So just so you know, got some sun. But, but you're hairy, so it all works out.
It's the all beard show. Absolutely, man. I am acknowledging everybody that it's here, and that's great. And Jake, I'm going to hold your comment for a couple seconds. We'll get into the conversation. But you got a lot going on at DC, and you've got a lot of creator-owned stuff going on as well. And wanted to catch up. And, of course, big announcements for you, both coming up later in the summer regarding DC. First of all, let's talk a little bit about and I'm very intrigued that it's a Black Label comic.
Yeah,
and Superman versus Lobo.
Yeah. This was and again, one of the weird things about sort of pandemic stuff is I've been working on some of these for months, but like the way the schedule kind of got pushed around and stuff. So like I was just holding my tongue, like, oh, I got this thing, and I can't say anything. So I'm so glad. But then they announced like these on the same day, so now I kind of feel like King Shark and Lobo Superman at the same time. It's like it's too much Seeley for one person usually, but yeah, no, it works out great, and so I can tell you how it ended up as a Black Label book, which I think is kind of interesting. Yeah. Which was they wanted to, I was talking to the DC stuff because they really like Money Shot. The editors up at DC like Money Shot, and they said, "Would you and Sarah be up for doing something?" And so I talked to Jamie, Rich, and kind of asked them what they were looking for, and they said, "We're looking to do something with a Superman cast member, like one of the family, the Superman family." And because they were expanding on that, they were doing Supergirl with Tom, and they were doing all this stuff. And so I was kind of kicking around. I was like, well, isn't Lobo kind of part of Superman family? I mean, isn't he kind of like now sort of been adopted? It's not like he's part of like Legion family anymore. So
right.
So I pitched him. I was like, well, how about Superman and Lobo together? And the initial pitch for it was kind of loose. And then I was talking to Mirka and Dolfo and Sarah alternately, like, hey, what would we do with Lobo? And they're both like, Lobo's hot as shit. He's a sexy guy. I was like, what? What? He's not. He's gross. And they're like, no, he's super hot. I was like, okay, that has to be what this is about. It's about why people like Lobo and think he's like, and it worked perfect because as soon as we announced it, everybody's like, oh, I hope Lobo kicks Superman's ass. Like, Lobo's terrible, right? So it's a story kind of about like the most perfect, sort of most likable, the best person in the DC universe, and the worst person in the DC universe, and like everything in between. And so it's a big epic story about their sort of relationship and how they are opposites of each other, full of like two horny ladies telling a lot of stories about how they want to bang Lobo. So that's pretty much
awesome. Well, that's what, again, because I'm like, this seems to be a no-brainer all ages story. Like, what kind of adult theme could necessitate Black Label? And now we know that's it.
It's actually like, well, the cool thing about the Black Label thing too is it's kind of changed. So this isn't really, I would say, an adult book. It's just that Black Label's for the evergreens. So now Black Label
is that true?
Yeah, Black Label kind of means like Wildstorm, Vertigo, Elseworlds. It's kind of what it means now. So this does have some like, it has some jokes, of course, that are pretty like, a little bit raunchy, but it is mostly kind of, it's Superman. Like Superman cannot be in an adult book. So,
well, in fact, that can mean many things. Go on.
Well, and so one of the jokes in here is that when Superman is on a page, there cannot be swearing. So at some point, Lobo's like, I can't even say fuck when you're around. So that's like a whole thing. But he blurts it out and he can't say it because Superman is there. Yeah, it's good. But so it's like a dark, funny sort of story about their relationship. But it is, I think it's more like an Elseworlds, more like a Vertigo, like an evergreen than it is like a adult
book. Okay, because I mean, I guess like I said, Lemire's Question and Lemire's Joker, and of course Azzarello and Bermejo's Batman Damned and stuff. So yeah, I just wasn't sure. And I mean, also too, I mean that's why I'm like, all right, maybe it's a psychological thing, but I'm like, it's Lobo. There is no psychology to Lobo.
I mean, he's
a dude. He's a space dude. So
yeah, just a big asshole.
God. Yeah. Oh man. And I'm sure it's already too late, but it's like, oh, I'd love to see. And again, I don't. If he's in there, that's okay. And now I just Terraman. Terraman should be in this story. Do you remember Terraman? You don't remember Terraman? Terraman was a space cowboy. He was an Earthling, captured by aliens, raised by the aliens because he was captured when he was a little kid. And great origin story. Neil Adams drew it. Amazing idea that was just kind of, I think, a space cowboy Clint Eastwood riff.
Because the last Terror Man, like Terror.
Do your look up, man, because he would be great in this story if you got time.
The last issue has a scene that I will need some characters. So, yes.
There you go, buddy. See? Oh, that'll be honestly, that is the greatest compliment when you guys take me seriously and you pop it in your stories. Zdarsky did that on the Invaders book when Namor went crazy and it was Cap and Namor just going at it with each other. And I'm like, what does Sue Storm have to say about crazy Namor? And he's like, oh, that's good. He goes, I didn't think of that. That's great. He popped it in. Well, so that's terrific, man.
The way that we write this book allows for plenty of riffing. So we can definitely get away with it.
You're gonna love Terraman. You're gonna love him. He chews some sort of weird tobacco that gives him some sort of powers and shit. I mean, like go deep if you can. Like really go to the origin story. It was collected in one of those Treasury Edition Supermans, and that's the first time I saw him. So yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it.
Tobias Manning, the Terra Man. It's also a kind of tequila, just so you know. Terraman tequila. So
Oh, that's awesome. It should be. It should be. That's like I was watching a commercial for Bullet Bourbon, and I'm like, how long has Bullet Bourbon existed? That's like a no-brainer of a name for bourbon to call it Bullet and everything. Give me 2 fingers of Bullet. Yeah, sure, right away. No problem, cowboy. Jake
Okay,
Murphy, very excited for the series.
I think Terror Man's got a story. He's got a place in my story.
Oh, I'm so that'll delight me, Tim. Seriously, that's fantastic. So, Jake, obviously very excited for this. I can't believe it took DC this long to do a Black Label book that moved away from the grim in favor of gory and goofy. Is that a fair characterization?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's me. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we kind of approached it, because I want to give Merc a lot of stuff she wanted to draw, and then I also wanted Sarah to like do what Sarah does well. So it's definitely sort of more sexy than you think it's going to be, probably, which is funny. But it's also sort of about like why, what makes a guy like Lobo compelling and interesting to people. But there's plenty of fights. Like it is just wall to wall brawl sort of, and because it's a Black Label, we get to do sort of like this evergreen kind of version of characters. So it's kind of like Silver Age Superman, like 50s Superman, and then like 80s Lobo. So
that's great.
Yeah. So like the setup is very much feels like, Silver Age Lobo, but it's like the Alan Grant, Simon Bisley version of Lobo. So
sure.
Mrs. Tribb is in here, and all kinds of weird Lobo stuff from the 90s, 80s and 90s. So it's gonna be good. It'll be delightful. I'm very proud of it.
That's exciting, man. Seriously, that's terrific. I was going to ask. So, did Sarah or Mirka say what they think of when they tried to pretty up Lobo and then made him like Twilight Lobo?
Yeah. So that was the thing too. Is they're like, well, that's lame. Like that's not sexy. Like, so I think it was Sarah who said like the reason Lobo's hot is because he seems like the kind of guy that would like come into your house and then like ash on your floor, and then like
it's a bad boy.
Leave a clog in your bathroom. Or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that seems right. And then they're like, yeah, that's hot. I was like, what? Neither of them had any affection for the sexy Twilight Lobo, as they call him. So we don't mention Twilight Lobo is not mentioned here in our story. We're just like really focusing on kind of like, I love the Black Label thing of that evergreen aspect, that it's like, this is just sort of a universal perfect. If you've ever liked Superman, if you've ever liked Lobo, this is, will appeal to you. It's not trying to like be absolutely up to date in continuity or something. It's just like a great universal sort of story.
Exciting, man. No, I think that's great. And and also making Superman stuffed shirt Superman, not in a bad way. So well, there you go. Tony helping us out. Terra Man, first appearance, Superman 2249.
Right on. I have already bookmarked it to do some research. So
excellent.
I've got room for, because a big part of their relationship that we discuss in here is that they're both the last sons of their world for a very different reason. Because Lobo killed his and Superman got killed by environmental disaster. But like, so there's, and then that was going to, have, that's part of the relationship. And then later, all the last sons will come together, including Gem, son of Saturn, and Martian Manhunter, and all those characters. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Space Cabbie making an appearance, perhaps?
I don't know if he's the last son of his planet, but
he probably isn't. That's true. But I like it though. I mean, any of the DC space guys from the Silver and Bronze Age, I'm like totally for it. Star Hawkins.
Oh, Star Hawkins. Yep. Yeah, I've been doing some research and picking some stuff. And it's funny because America and Sarah don't have any idea who those people are. So when I throw them in there, they're the ones that can be like, come up with an awesome joke for that character because they have no connection to it. So
sure. Well, exactly. And also, I don't know the last time any of them have been touched. I mean, remember when Chaykin and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez did Twilight, which was that all the DC space characters.
Yeah. Grim,
significant thing I remember.
What's that? That was a grim ass story. I actually read it during the pandemic. I read it like last June, I think, and I was like, well, that wasn't the right one to choose. It is beautifully done. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, you've been busy with Money Shot and these other books and stuff, but did you look at any other, whether it was crowdfunding or Panel Syndicate or other platforms, to do something outside of the usual publisher direct market approach and stuff. Did you think about any of that during the year?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, I did. I did two things that are outside that model, but you won't hear about them because they're not done.
Okay.
I mean, and I definitely, so the beginning of the pandemic, everything was kind of weird, and I lost some gigs, and
Sure.
I was trying to figure out kind of what to do, and I did get to some opportunities, like three opportunities to do stuff out of the normal four. I'll take it back, it's four, but I have four opportunities to do stuff outside of comics or outside the standard sort of system of comics. So I wrote a movie, I worked on a major video game, and then I did two comics that are sort of like not standard releasing model. But the problem with not standard releasing model is they don't come out right away. And
Sure.
so like I've written them, they're done, but it'll take a little while to get them out. But yeah, I mean, I definitely the interesting thing I think of the last 6 months has been, comics really sort of weathered this time well, and in fact benefited from it, which is terrible but true. And so, my sales are up on all my stuff, and
That's great.
my digital stuff went up. We did a Kickstarter for the Hackslash hardcover, which we put out, which is basically just kind of a pre-order for the special edition of that. But that was great, and I got to do new stuff. I wrote and drew a new story for that. But it was just like a weird period of, I was working on tons of stuff, and now some of it is just trickling out. Like I told you, I've been working on Lobo Superman for a long time. I think probably since last September, October, I think I've been working on it. So, and then for it to finally get announced. And the King Shard I've only been working on for a couple months. But some of this stuff, because of the pandemic stuff, schedules were so different. And so, yeah, it's it'll shake out. It'll look like I have just a ton of stuff at the same time.
That's good. That's all right. Tell me, that's what you and Maurice made that movie, right?
Yeah. We wrote
about that movie. Yeah.
So I mean, basically, it's like a year ago this week. It was like last Memorial. Basically, we were starting to realize that this was not going to be over quickly. That the pandemic was not going to be over by the end of summer. And we were originally trying to shoot Revival as a movie, and obviously it was clear that wasn't going to happen by next winter. So so we just decided, well, we got the COVID restrictions for the state of Illinois for filming. And so we took all those restrictions, and then we basically brainstormed a movie that you could make in those restrictions, which was you couldn't have more than two people on screen at a time.
Okay.
There was just all these things. I mean, things that make sense, obviously, right? And you had to have a 2-week sort of period before you shot where everybody had to be together. So that meant one location, right? You can't shoot in multiple locations.
Okay.
So we went, and this was working with Luke Boyce, who is working on the Revival movie. And we just took all of that. We wrote a movie based on the restrictions, and then we got funding for it. And, we were able to use our budget to shoot the movie and to put up the COVID restrictions, the stuff. And essentially Luke shot it we got a hotel. They gave us a hotel no one was using. Everybody quarantined for 2 weeks. Then they shot the movie, and then Luke has been editing it since then, and it's done. So movie, it's done.
Do you have a distributor? Do you have a outlet?
That's next, right? So we're going to festivals and stuff. And
wonderful.
So, yeah,
that's awesome. My God, that's wonderful, man.
Yeah, it timed out well because obviously not a lot of stuff was made during the pandemic. So, so we have one of the few new movies that is finished and ready to go. So it's a horror movie, but a kind of horror comedy, mostly horror comedy kind of thing. But
sure.
We followed the rules and made something kind of unique. And obviously, it has restrictions. You couldn't shoot a giant crowd scene; that was not allowed. But we made it work. It's kind of crazy. And kudos to Mike and Luke who put in tons of work into making that work.
I'm gonna have to talk to Mauricio about this too. That's great, man. And again, this is what I love is how creative people were able to still work and come up with ideas during this weird time. And I love hearing that. So that's fantastic that you guys were able to do it. I know a lot of other production movie companies and television were obviously seeing how they could creatively get around everything and still make stuff. So that's outstanding.
And be safe. We wanted to obviously take care of the people working on stuff.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Great people are like dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. Life will find a way. And so, we figured it out. And hey, there's John Lehman on it.
Yeah, John Lehman chiming in and saying the movie
Cool.
stuff is exciting. I agree with you, Johnny.
Yeah.
Johnny, we got to do a new talk soon. I'll throw it out there, given that you're watching right now. So, oh my guys, this is good, man. And I don't know what your first con is going to be back, Tim, but I'm going to go to Connecticut for Terrificon.
Oh, great! Yeah,
and I'm really excited to do that again and everything. And yeah,
I think I'm going to do. I've got to probably do Raleigh. I think the SuperCon.
Oh, great! Yeah,
but I got to figure out because I got a kid and stuff. But
sure, yes.
But definitely C2E2 and New York Comic Con.
That's cool.
So
yeah, I don't know. I gotta decide about New York. I don't know. I'll see how my my post taxes bank account grows, and then I'll determine if I go or not. But I mean, I love New York. Good Lord, I just love going
I feel safe. I think the big cities have been really good about vaccinating people, and I feel good about it. So, and Reed is be on it. So,
but it was it's funny, as I was telling you, this weekend was like my most normal weekend, since the pandemic. And that said, I woke up sneezing, and I think it's allergies, but it was weird. And I'm just like, God, I finally was like in a restaurant more than once, maskless with other people. I mean, we were, distance, but still. And yeah, it's like, I'm like, why am I sneezing? Oh no.
Hey, on the upside, almost very, very, very few people who've been vaxxed get serious illness. So if you,
you're right. Yeah, Bill Maher on his show, I know he just got back this Friday, and he had to take 2 weeks off because he was asymptomatic, but obviously had it. So he had to sit on his ass for 2 weeks. So no, I get it, man. That's crazy. Well, let's get back to more comics, but really exciting about the movie, and I'll certainly be bugging you guys about that as it gets closer.
Absolutely.
Whatever. So I expect a screener.
Oh yeah, for sure.
At the very least. So King Shark. Now I know this is not from your comic, but you're about to do Free Comic Book Day featuring King Shark. This is from Flashpoint, and I believe that is a Hal Jordan, non-powered Hal Jordan encountering King Shark. But tell me, is this an ongoing? Is this a miniseries? What is this?
No, it's a mini, and it's basically the Suicide Squad movie comes out at the end of August, and sort of everybody who sees it is like, oh man, King Shark in this movie is the Rocket and/or Groot of the year. So they asked me if I want to write it, and I was like, this is one of those rare instances where someone throws me a company character that is absolutely perfect for me because it doesn't happen that often. And it's like Lobo, Deadpool, Harley Quinn, and then this. I'm like a huge shark fan for one. I watch every shark movie ever made. I don't care how good, how bad. I've seen them all. And this is like dark and funny, and that character is dark and funny. But I get to work with Scott Collins, who did
terrific. Yeah, that's a great artist. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's killing it. And our idea is crazy. It's gonna be pretty epic. So I'm super excited to work on it. I texted James Gunn and told him I was doing it, and he said right on. So there we go. I think
that's great.
We're good.
That's hilarious. That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that, Tim. You really are. You know a lot of movie people because you've been like, I know years ago, and I mean, it comes to mind immediately. You did your Trauma movie, and you Kevin Grievo, obviously. I know he's a good friend of yours and everything.
I know a lot of these people from Trauma. I know James from Trauma.
There you go.
Although that aesthetic, which used to be kind of like just for weirdos, is now like the main aesthetic for superhero films. So, but so it totally is in my wheelhouse. I can do something crazy. It'll be really, really fun and really, really weird. But it's 6 issues. It's going to be premiering on Free Comic Day, which now is in August, right? So,
yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
so great timing. I like what DeLuziel is saying, and he's like been wanting to read some. I didn't know this was King Shark's real name.
Nanaway.
Nanaway. I didn't realize that. So, will there be Hawaiian mythology in there?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, his origin, if you go back to Superboy, which is where he first showed up, is definitely like a sort of Hawaiian kind of thing. But kind of not. So
sure.
Like that, but yeah, definitely the first issue, they go back to Hawaii to visit his father. So yeah, it definitely immediately goes into that stuff. And another big part of this for me, and I'm going to use it too much here, but I love tiki stuff. So I was like, well, I got to do the crazy, tiki sort of that kind of aesthetic. But yeah, Scott is doing all kinds of fun stuff with it. It'll be crazy.
That's excellent, man. No, that's terrific. I loved Ron Funches playing him in the Harley series.
That is my favorite version of the character for sure.
Yes.
The comic version is really not very consistent. That like he starts out like wearing S&M gear, and he's a shark god. Well, he's a shark god's son, and then like after that, they kind of do all kinds of weird stuff with him. Like he's like the new Aquaman's mentor. Like there's just a lot of stuff, but like that version of him that shows up in Flash or Green Lantern is weird because it's also like I think that might also be the Shark, who is a former villain of Aquaman. So there's like there's King Shark and the Shark and all other. I had to figure out like the continuity of this character is crazy. So I had to like figure it out and distill it into one thing. So I spent a lot of time digging through back issue bins to do some research and stuff. But we definitely he's the guy from Superboy. He's the guy from that sort of Atlantis Aquaman series. He's that.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we tie in all his appearances in Suicide Squad. I did like a probably overly exhaustive attempt to tie these things all together.
But that's great, man. That's like when James Robinson was doing Hawkman and kind of made sense of all the different twists and turns of Hawkman and stuff. So no, I think that's and again, yeah, Shark has that Groot Rocket Raccoon appeal, like potential. And again, yeah, we've already seen it with Funches and everything, so that's great. And it sounds good that the movie kind of leans into that idea as well. So I think that's wonderful.
Sylvester Stallone voicing him.
I'd forgotten that he's doing King Shark. That's awesome.
Yeah. Which, when I'm writing him, I hear a combination of Ron Funches and Sylvester Stallone, which is not good. It's not. I don't recommend that to anybody to have to figure out how that sounds. So.
Yeah, that's a weird baby. Absolutely.
Yeah,
are there going to be other DC Ocean-based heroes and villains showing up?
Oh yeah. And there's a bunch of other crazy, weird DC characters in here. I dug deep, man. It's gonna be, and we made up a lot of stuff too. Like it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be a really crazy book.
I hope I just love all the Silver Age non-powered adventure books that DC was putting out back in the 50s and 60s. And Sea Devils is another Silver Age comic that I constantly look for on eBay to buy, just to have the covers. Just beautifully drawn covers and everything. I love that shit. It's amazing.
Carrie Bates stuff, maybe, right? Like or is that not Carrie? I'm trying to go who that cover artist was. But
was it now I'm blanking, Nick Cardy or somebody? Or no, it wasn't Nick Cardy.
Cardy, you're right.
Was it Cardy?
Yeah. He did those really great Aquaman ones. Like
and I have a ton of those. I love those.
We definitely sort of. This does not have Sea Devils in it, although King Shark knows Sea Devils from the sort of Atlantis story. But we use some other stuff that people will be surprised by.
Yeah, there's plenty.
You get the chance to drop the what it's about, really. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I can't wait to see people react to this because it'll be a pretty strange story.
Understood. Derek Tyler wants to know: has there been any movement on the Hack Slash movie trail?
Man, I mean, whatever there was, COVID killed it because killed every movie. And then I don't know why the studio that has the rights to it just kind of doesn't do anything. So that's probably why we did Revealer, because we were just like, we could have just made Hack Slash. If I could have. I could have done it myself by now. So this part of the reason was just like, fuck it, let's make our own movie.
But that's great, man. Yeah.
And so now it's a new thing, but at least Revealer is sort of in that tone. It's like a dark comic horror sort of thing, but and the character is very Cassie-esque, I guess. Lucan Luke and Mike told me that I have a type of girl I write, which is she's mean and funny, and that this character was a lot like Cassie. So.
Okay, and what's the title again?
Revealer.
Revealer. Excuse me.
Like the rough pitch for this is that there's a bookstore in Chicago in the '80s called Revealer Bookstore, and it's like a dirty bookstore, like an adult bookstore, peep shows and stuff. And one of the dancers is at work or doing her peep show thing, and a protester, like a religious protester, comes in and starts basically sort of harassing her. And then the end of the world occurs. The biblical end of Revelation happens. So then you got the revealer thing in there. Anyway, and then they're stuck together as the world ends around them. So like all the stuff,
Wow.
the chains around the sun and all that sort of shit happens around them, and they're stuck sort of together in this peep show booth.
Interesting. Wow. That's cool. That sounds great. No, and also again, like horror movies really this is such a weird time for movies in particular, in terms of it's either the tentpole movies or it's the reasonable, the cheaper made movies in terms of budget.
Yep, there is no middle. The middle is gone. The middle is dead.
Exactly.
It's either the like everyone in America sees this, or just a few people, and that you can live off both of those. That's it. There's no middle. So, pandemic again made that worse. I mean, that was already going that way, and then this.
Yeah, kind of rush things along. No, I agree with you. No, it's really interesting, and yeah, I mean, again, the TV and film that was made during this period, I think, is going to be, because it had to be very creative and good ideas in terms of with limited options of how you can shoot. So I think that's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very
setting it in a peep show booth meant we could have two people on screen at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they were safe. They were in a peep show booth and they weren't.
Oh, that's a good point. Absolutely, man. No, very, very cool. Well, let's move on to, and I'm really glad that you and Sarah are doing so well together, Sarah Beatty and you as writing partners and stuff. And this is an old cover, but I love all the variant covers for Money Shot. I'm for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know who signed this. You'll be able to tell me probably. Bottom it's you, right?
Yeah, and then I don't know who did that. I'm not sure the other one is. That Kurt? No, I don't know. Somebody did. That's okay.
All right. Regardless,
I'm the bottom. Right next to dildo is my name, of course.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'll see if YouTube yanks it down because we've got a dildo on the cover. We'll find out.
My life.
Yes, that's all right. But the audio, regardless, will be safe. So yes, everybody, it was a dildo on the cover. That might entice you to check out the video version of this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But fun book, great book. I'm so glad you guys are in a great rhythm of dialogue and story. I assume that the collaboration continues and everything's going great.
Yeah, we kind of, we work together. So Money Shot, then we also are doing Lobo and Superman together. So we have a pretty good system for how we do stuff. And it was nice to have each other to talk to over the course of the day, like excuse to. But yeah, so the Money Shot 11 just came out, which is the start of our new arc. And the way that Vault is like 5 issues at a time, kind of is 5 or 6 at a time. So so we just started that one. Just came out this week actually, and it's back to our thing with the it's space exploration funded by porn essentially, but this one we kind of set up. They get a new member, and the shtick is that she's gorgeous, like the hottest person ever, and she wants to save the world. She's developing this seaweed stuff that'll fix global warming, but she cannot. She's the worst at sex ever. She's like the worst porn star. She farts while she's having sex and all this. So that's the joke. Is like they're like, she's amazing. We need to help her, but she cannot have sex at all. So she's terrible. So it's a big dumb joke but it's a really fun issue, and I think it's kind of a perfect encapsulation of the things. It's kind of self-contained, but it sets up the next 4 issues. But
that's great. That's cool. Very funny.
Full of really, really crude Sarah jokes. This one is more than usual, I'd say. So.
Well, I just love Vault Comics. Honestly, every time I hear about a new, like I just talked to Chris Cantwell about his Blue Flame.
Yeah, Blue Flame. Yeah. Awesome.
It sounds great. So that's cool. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Tony. Rebecca Isaacs is the other name. That makes sense. Of course it is.
Yeah, duh.
The artist, only the artist. That's all.
Yeah, no big deal. And so she's off this arc because we kind of worked her pretty hard for this, and then she, needed some time off. So we have Caroline Lee Lane doing this current arc, who's similar to Rebecca but very different as well, much more sort of cartoony. But it's looking great. I think everybody's pretty happy with how it's going, and we kind of I don't know, for some reason when Caroline's drawing it, like we feel less bad when we do something naughty because it looks cute and cartoony. So it got dirtier. The book got dirtier. So yeah, I apologize to everyone who was like, "Oh, it was so tasteful before," which was no one.
Well, I was going to say, and Rebecca is awesome, and it's it's a beautiful book and stuff. I'm intrigued to see the new artist. That's fantastic. No, and yes, it should be dirty. Thank God it's dirty. Again, I guess as I get older and stuff, it's like I like the form of comic books, and I have no problem with all ages stories. But that's why I welcome Black Label and all the other adult initiatives out there. And I'm so glad because, God, I remember 20 years ago when it was like, of course we wouldn't do a Batman Vertigo story. Of course we wouldn't do a Superman Vertigo story, with the exception of Steve Siegel's little artsy Superman. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but yeah, his Superman story and everything. Yeah, it's like, no, please do it. We can handle it.
Well, I just think and I'm never sure. I don't think we need a adult like dirty Superman story. And I'm not. But I do think like comics is a great place for, and if anything has reaffirmed that for me, it's teaching. Is just like there should be comics for everyone. There should be a comic for every kind of reader, kids for sure, college, teenagers, adult. Like we have room for it, so we should be doing it. And we are. I mean, I think there's more diverse titles and stuff than ever before. So I think we're doing what we should be, which is like we definitely should have comics for kids, and we need to make sure we have them. But it is a medium. It's not it's something that there's tons of ways to do story.
Deal O'Zeal was wondering if there's another Vault book beyond Money Shot that you like.
Well, I mean, I'm doing Vampire the Masquerade there as well at Vault with the Howards. And Dev is the artist on that, and that just came out issue 10. I think just came out not too long ago. So yeah, I'll keep doing that. I'm also working on another Vault thing. But yeah, I thought Blue Flame was amazing. It's colored by Kurt Michael Russell, who colors Money Shot.
Great.
So Mike Morisi does a book there called Barbaric that's coming out, which I totally recommend everybody check out. It's really good. I think it's Mike's best thing.
Cool.
By Nate Gooden, who does the backups in Vampire. Yeah, Vault's killing it, man. They're just making good stuff. I just feel like they, it's like working at Image or Dark Horse in the early days of those companies, where like they're just figuring things out and they're dedicated to quality and they've got a really good voice. And so I'm happy to be part of that crew and have Money Shot there, which I think, they were the only ones who wanted to do it. Everybody else was like, no, you can't do a space porn book. You can't do that. So
no, I'm glad that I'm glad they said yes to it. You've got new stuff coming from Aftershock, don't you?
I'm working on the Big Quest, right? It just issue 4 comes out, I think.
Yeah.
Next. But yeah, with
tell
Freddie,
people about the Big Quest. Yeah.
The Quest is basically like a fantasy, sword and sorcery kind of world where there's a black market trade between their world and ours. And so they get sent to these sort of group of heroic fantasy characters who, of course, are like looters. They like rob graves and, all the things that you would do. So they're not good people. They come to our world and then they have to like solve a problem in like woke modern America. But it's also like, it's a little bit of a political allegory, of course, as I often do. But it's it's like fantasy and sword and sorcery type characters in modern Chicago. And then all the sort of crazy, the differences of like their world and our world and the politics of it. And it's funny and dark and full of action. So, and Freddie Williams is drawing the hell out of it, which I kind of wrote it just for Freddie. I just wanted Freddie to draw some cool sword dudes and monsters, and he killed it. So pretty exciting.
That's great, man. No, I remember you telling me about this probably the last time we spoke. So as you're describing, like, wait a minute, I know this book. That's excellent. And of course, glad to acknowledge an Aftershock product. Aftershock, a proud sponsor of Word Balloon. So it's good that we're talking about this. And yeah,
they're out now, so you can get 1 through 3. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. It's, I mean, sort of different for me because it's not horror or anything, but it's snarky and sexy and has swear words in it. So.
Good. Yay. That's fantastic. That's excellent, man. Very cool. Tony agrees and says, by the way, Vampire the Masquerade, also a great book. So he agrees with you that. Yeah, I talked a little bit about it with Teeny just a couple of weeks ago and stuff. So, and this is nice. See, Mike Conrad says, loving Bequest and also Dark Red was a great book as well.
Oh, thanks. Yes. Yeah, Dark Red, we're working on some more.
Good.
Yeah,
I was wondering.
10 issues, and then I wrote, again, pandemic stuff. Like, I wrote a bunch of stuff. It's just not out yet. So I wrote another thing. It exists. It's just not finished, but we're working on it.
No, and again, I totally understood a lot of publishers who had to kind of, put a pause on everybody, and it sucks. It shows you, unfortunately, the fragility of the direct market. And I love the direct market, and I want the direct market to continue. But, again, there's this kind of showed the limitations of having a sole distributor, and nothing against Diamond. But, yeah, any thoughts on all that?
Oh, God, many thoughts. I mean, here the thing about it is, obviously a shutdown, a necessary shutdown for those, those weeks that we had to, like, okay, we got to figure out what the hell's going on.
Right.
Important. But I think my personal opinion on this is that comic publishers freaked out more than they should have. The distributors have to freak out, but because look, they've got to they have the act of putting things into a store, right? Like, so I understand that.
Sure.
But Vault didn't stop, kept making stuff, and they were rewarded for it. Again, like I said, sales were up for comics, and I think the sort of like there's you said fragility of the direct market, and I agree. But there's also this weird thing of like everybody having no faith to some degree in the market and in the fans and in the product. So the opposite happened of what everybody was freaked out about, which was, and I think even Todd McFarlane said this, which was like, oh, people stop going to the store for 6 weeks. They're not going to go back, right? Like they'll get out of the habit. And it's the opposite happened, right? People went back and then a bunch of other people went back. So I think, I have lots of thoughts about this, but
I'm glad.
The main thing I think is like what the publishers need to understand is how good that the product is right now.
Yeah.
Like people, when things go crazy, they crave something stable and comfortable. And comics is a collectible and an entertainment thing, right? And so this was the perfect time for those two things. So like everybody, what you cannot buy now, and I know because I just went through and redid my comics. You can't buy bags and boards. Why? Everybody on Earth is doing what I was doing during the pandemic, which was begging and boarding all of my comics that I haven't touched since 1995, right? So, like, people went back to the things they love. And I think this was the test that comics passed, which was this could have been a bad thing for us, but actually it helped us because people love these things that we make. And they have emotional connection to them. They love them as collectibles and as entertainment pieces, and they work on both levels. And if we don't ruin that by like putting out crap product or taking advantage of them, we can make this work for a long time. Like magazines died, right? Magazines are done. Why? All they do is contain ads and some articles that you could get online. But comics are not that. Comics are a product that you can love and collect and read. And so, like, if we keep doing this and don't ruin it, I think comics got as much time as we need them to have. We're not going to go the way of magazines or anything.
I agree with you, and it was a good surprise how resilient the business is. Thankfully, and then again, everyone did ultimately benefit, and that's great. But again, it was a scare, and I guess like you said, have more faith in the product and the fact that thankfully the audience has proven that no, we're still there, and we want more good books.
Yeah,
so that's a positive.
Right, and if we got new people, and if we, as creators and as a business, if we take advantage to more of that sort of stuff, I think the sky is the limit. We just have to not put out crap, and we have to put out stuff for all kinds of readers. Like I keep going, I do love superheroes, and I really do. But whenever the industry is just superheroes, we have a very narrow group of people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just a fact, right? Like it's just not. That is not enough. And people love superhero movies. Yeah, I know, but like it's not enough to sustain and appeal to a bunch of people.
Right.
I see 60 college kids, whatever, who are interested in cartooning, and most of them they love the Marvel movies, but they don't know where to read Iron Man, so they don't do it. But they will read the shit out of everything else. So
that's really interesting. Yeah, because I want you to talk about your teaching at Columbia. So they do buy comics, but they buy other genres.
I mean, I tell the story, but so the first class of all the cartooning classes I've done, which is 2 a semester, right? So I was saying in the beginning, hey, this cartooning class, we're going to focus a lot on character design stuff, but it's mostly going to be about comics. Who reads comics? And nobody raises their hand, right? Always. And then by the end of the semester, they're always like, oh man, I love Bone. I've been reading that the whole time. Or I love One Piece, or I love Lore Olympus on Webtoons. I was like, those are comics. And they'll always be like, oh, I've got all the Sandman books, but I didn't know if that was comics. Like, we've told people that comics is just monthly superhero books. And that's a problem because people love comics. They just don't, most people don't go for being part of like this, this
right.
very specific small thing, which, yes, I love them. You love them.
Sure.
I just don't want them to be the only thing that gets attention. I don't want people to think all comics are, well, hey, you need to have read all these things to get it. Like, it's amazing to me because I had a assistant come in this week who I work with at Columbia, and she's an awesome cartoonist. And for her going through my comics, she's like, oh, I didn't know this kind of thing was made. Like, I didn't know they had these kind of comics. Like, and it's kind of a bummer we haven't communicated that, that most of them still think it's like, oh, it's just Avengers and Captain America and stuff.
You're 100% right. I've got a great one of my best friends. We were hanging out in Evanston, which for non-Chicagoans, that's where Northwestern University is located, and was at Comics Revolution, that particular store. And we had reservations at the restaurant across the street. So while we were waiting, we went into the store and everything. And the wife was blown away by the sophistication of today's comics. Sure. And she's like, again, I mean, she's like, and literally said, I grew up on Sunday Funnies and High and Lois and Peanuts and a great comic strips, obviously. That's why they're still around for decades later. But she's like, I had no idea this was also happening in comic books. And I'm like, yeah. And she was thrilled. And she really was. She's like, God, this is really beautiful art. I'm like, yeah, and the stories are great too. So,
Yeah. We just had to have more. Yeah. Like it all comes down to faith in the readers and in the product. I think we saw it pass, so let's not freak out again. Like, let's just, like Marvel, DC, and everybody else, like, just make fucking good stuff and make a bunch of it and find the people who will read it. Like, it's not hard.
And also, they're catering, and I'm glad both are venturing into other genres, and certainly DC is doing that a lot. And I mean, I even saw this weekend on Twitter them promoting their horror line.
Yeah.
Stuff, and that's great. That's fantastic, and they should cater every genre that is possible. But by the same token, the next tier, and I don't mean that in any disparaging way, but the Vaults, the Aftershocks, everybody else that makes books. I mean, certainly Image would create their own stuff, but it's like, fine, let them do superheroes. Marvel and DC, they have the recognizable characters. You can still do superhero stuff, but obviously don't limit yourself. And there's, God damn, I want a good Western comic, and it's been a while since I've been able to find one of those, and every other genre and stuff. And and also the great thing is the kids are still entering it with the YA stuff that's being made, and the Renee Telgemeyers and Bone and the like. So no, again, there's no reason for this to continue, and it is. And again, Free Comic Book Day is always such a great thing to see, and I love the fact that people, beyond getting the DC and Marvel books, are trying all the other publishers and genres that are being put out.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big thing I always have with my students too is they're always like, well, I didn't think this was comics because it's Japanese, it's manga. Like, manga just means comics. That's it. It is not translate, does not mean something. It just means comic, and you have to like. I think we have to do this thing where we push people away from trying to treat these as different things. Where people like, somebody will sell that Demon Prince, whatever demon thing manga sold like a bazillion copies. People are like, well, that's manga. It doesn't count. It's not a comic that's sexual. It's comics. It's just comics. It's the same shit. And when that sells, that's a benefit for us all. Like that's not
no question.
Not at war with Japan over representation of comics. Like we are all making comics. It doesn't
absolutely.
Like
I love the Belgian. I love the Belgian product. I love the UK product. I mean, it's
it has different vibes, but it is all comics, and it all comes from America. We invented this shit. That is a fact. We made this stuff up, and then other people did it. And manga is the Japanese people doing comics. That's it. It's like that's not.
You're right. Do you have any? Have you done any webtoons or any?
No, I mean, no. Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Like I've released stuff that way. Like I did Cold Noble that way, and a couple other things.
Oh, sure, of course you did back in the day. Yeah.
When it was first starting out, and now it's so much more sophisticated, much smarter. I think. No, I love that model. My kids all read stuff on their phone, like webtoons. They read a shit ton of comics, but it's all like just
vertical. Yeah,
it's like one panel at a time.
Right.
I don't like reading comics that way. I have no problem with people do. It's still comics. I just don't like it. It's not. I don't want to look at my phone any more than I have to. So I don't read them that format. But the collections of some of that stuff I think are great. But I think that's where we're going. Eventually, that's going to be. I'm gonna have to get over that shit because that's. So it's just kind of. It's not. I still don't love reading things on screen. I just don't. I know it's more sort of environmentally friendly and everything, but I don't remember when I read shit on screen. I guess it's because I'm 44 and that's a perfect age to be like, to me, the computer it's nothing. But we are going that way. And that is definitely, so we got to get used to it and make good product that way. But if you go on Webtoons or Tapas and stuff, they're killing it. They're millions and millions of readers.
Yeah.
So, Lore Olympus got like more distribution than all superhero books put together, probably. So, it's working. The comics they're hitting. So,
completely agree on all that, man. Yeah, it's again, it's a very interesting time, and every time I think, okay, it's like settled into the new normal, another new normal appears, and it's like, oh wait, there's this, and we got to keep abreast of what's going on there. I love it. Again, as an older reader, I still love my superhero stories. That's meat and potatoes for me. But every now and then, you want to eat fish. You want to eat something else, and it's like no. And that's the beautiful thing. And God, I've been very lucky, and it's public, so I don't mind saying it. I'm one of the Ringo Award judges.
Oh yes,
and that's terrific. I'm very excited to be part of that. And I can't tell you how many boxes of amazing comics I've been going through to settle on nominees and stuff. It's a great problem to have, and it's very exciting to read all the great stuff that's being made right now. And forgive me everybody if I sound like a rah-rah, but it's sincere. There's a lot of great. This is truly a second golden age in terms of the amount of talent that's out there that are putting great books out there. It's amazing.
Agreed. And there's more coming. I can tell you because I teach some of them.
That's I was wondering that, Tim. Are you teaching? I know you're teaching animation, but are you also teaching sequential art? I mean, I
have a two cartooning class comics. I have 2 comics classes every semester. So man, I'm getting all the comics kids. That's my sort of main thing I do at Columbia. So dude, every semester I'm always like, holy shit, I can't believe how well cooked these kids are. So,
that's great.
Yeah, there's gonna be
that's amazing. I should bug you to find a good budding student to realize some of my ideas.
Sure. Hey, that is one thing I do sort of recommend. The kids who they're making these kind of web comics and stuff. They don't know to like go to conventions with a portfolio and stuff like that. They don't come from that. So like, if you are looking for great collaborators, there's some amazing web comics creators that they just live in a world where they do comics that doesn't directly connect. So I do recommend like checking some of that stuff out. And if you're a established pro and you're looking for some collaborators, like those kids are awesome. There's some really awesome.
Well, and that's truly been something I've always admired about you. Jay Faber is another guy that comes to mind, that find great collaborators from an artistic standpoint. And I mean, just, really like, I mean, one that comes immediately to mind is, how you became friends with Jenny Frizen, who now is your sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And I mean, but what an accomplished, artist that she is. And I mean, she only gets stronger. And she's a great person. She's one of my favorite people, obviously, and it's been great to get to know her through you guys. But yeah, I mean, I just, but a lot of your collaborators over the years and stuff. Oh God, and I'm probably gonna get her name wrong. Is it Emily Rose?
M. Stone, yeah, she was on Hack Slash. Yeah, now she's like, she works in animation and makes all kinds of big money.
Good for her. That's great to hear. My God.
Yeah.
So that's excellent, man. Yeah, no, very, very cool. Have you had time? Because I know you got the kid too and everything. Have you had time to watch anything cool lately?
Oh man, that's all I do is watch stuff. I mean, like, I definitely had a entertainment filled pandemic, and that, I didn't get to go to theaters, so I had to like double down and watch a lot of old. I think you and I talked about this a little bit. Beginning pandemic starting, I decided I was going to do all of the Universal monster movies, all of the Hammer monster movies.
I love the Hammer movies and Universal.
I've pretty much done them all the monster ones at least. Some of the other ones, the more cult ones I didn't get to yet, but
I understand.
So I did all those, and then I've been working on. Let's see, I rewatched all of Batman '66 with my daughter, which was great. That was a totally awesome little viewing experiment because you can watch it with kids because it's completely.
Sure, colors and everything, yeah.
Totally. And every time Catwoman comes on screen, she gets really excited.
That's funny. That's great.
But yeah, I mean, I've watched tons of stuff. I recommend a show if you haven't seen it called Mythic Quest, which is made by the Always Sunny in Philadelphia people.
I have seen teasers of this. Go on. Yeah.
So it's about video games. It's about the video game industry, but it's Rob McElhenney. Charlie Day is a producer. But it's basically that he created this giant, massive role-playing game, and then he's kind of like this Zack Snyder type, where like his tastes are kind of like low taste, but he's a genius in picking things people will like, and he's sort of running this video game studio with artists who like keep coming up with these brilliant ideas, and then he always trashes them down, and then it works. It's a show about like the artistic process and creativity. Sure. It's so good. It's so well done. And
what's it on? Is it on Apple? What's it on?
Hulu, I believe.
Okay, Hulu. Yeah. I think you're right. It is Hulu. Yeah.
And there's one episode. It's one of the best single episodes of television I've ever seen. So.
Wow, that's great. That's great to hear.
One episode that I think is really brilliant.
One particular episode is really great.
Yeah, I mean all of them are great, but there's one that is like fine art that I absolutely recommend everybody. So.
That's great to hear, and it's funny because someone else recommended a different Hulu show to me, the one that Wyatt Russell made, Lodge 49 or whatever it's called.
Oh,
yeah, the guys, yeah. So Wyatt Russell impressed me on Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I'm like, sure.
He was an awesome U.S. agent. He was very hateable. I thought was great.
Absolutely,
but also kind of likable as that character.
Well, the best villains are the ones that you understand their limitations and motivations and stuff, and he thinks he's the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Which and again also, like, I was really hoping for a real breakdown moment where he's like, you don't know how hard it is, and then I know again in my mind, and of course Chris Evans has better things to do, but was really hoping that like 90-year-old Steve Rogers showed up and it was like, it's okay, I know how hard it is. It's okay.
They wrote something like that and couldn't film it. I do care.
Maybe.
Obviously COVID came around because it clearly messed up the ending of WandaVision, right?
Yes.
They clearly couldn't shoot some of the stuff that they wanted to shoot. So.
That's right. You're right about that. Yeah, and but again, I think they made reasonable solutions. Do you have Apple TV?
No.
Because my favorite, and it just wrapped up a month or so ago, is For All Mankind, the NASA show.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I heard good things.
It's so great.
I watched the one about the documentary about the Challenger, which was fascinating. I felt like I should watch it for Money Shot because it's a lot about sort of the politics of science exploration and the funding, which is what caused a lot of their troubles.
Absolutely.
Amazing and disheartening, and
Well, and that's why I would even recommend if you were to buy seasons of For All Mankind, I would do it because the show is really, really exceptional. It's been 2 seasons already, and it's fun. They really do jump from the 70s, and then the second season is really all the 80s, and the assumption is obviously we'll go into the 90s for the next season.
Right,
so,
I'm in.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What else, Tim? Am I missing any books? You'll forgive me.
No, I think I can't even remember. I do so much shit. I can't even remember stuff. I can never remember what's been announced and what hasn't. That's always the problem. I'll be like, hey, that book. I'm like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to talk about that one. Which is the crazy thing about comics that there's even that thing. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is kind of announced, and then that video game thing I did is unannounced. So like some of that stuff is kind of trickling out. But there'll be cool stuff all through the next year that I'm keeping busy with, and yeah, it'll never a dull moment. Got to keep moving. Got to keep making shit. That's my process.
I hear you, buddy. Well, again, now that I was just saying the same thing to Brownie last week. Ryan Brown, God Hates Astronauts. That now that things are relaxed, we got to make time to have an afternoon visit or whatever.
Yeah, Brownie
when you're strolling with Valentina, I'll come to Portage Park and walk around with you guys.
Yeah, Brownie and I, we live close enough that sometimes I'll be like, hey, I'm sitting outside at this bar, feeding my baby root beer while I drink cocktails. Come visit me. And then Ryan comes over. So, we keep it in the family out here in Portage Park.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I got an affinity for your neighborhood because that's where my dad's restaurant was for 20 years.
Every time I walk to my dad's restaurant. Yeah. It's so crazy.
Honestly, that was like the greatest. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, this is dad's. This is because I never think of it as Portage Park. I always just think of the intersection, Irving and Austin, and I'm like, wait a minute, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, it's a thrill. My first comic books were read in Tim's neighborhood at Vince's Barbershop, which is no longer there, but that was my first exposure to Carmine Infantino art, Neil Adams art. John Broome story writing, because I remember Green Lantern and Flash comics in particular, Gil Kane. Seeing all the weird alien Green Lanterns blew my little mind as a little kid as I was reading that stuff.
I do always think of that because that now is a closed laundromat or something. And I always think this is where Little John got his first comics, and it spawned all this. It happened in this very location.
It's totally true, man. That's where my brain exploded. I'm like, I like comics, and here we are. Good Lord, what hath we wrought, as a Marvel title would say back in the Silver Age. So, well done, Tim. I'm really excited for everything that's coming up. Again, busy August, Superman versus Lobo and the King Shark stuff. So again, let's take a look at this. Yep. Is this Mirka Andolfo's art?
Mirka Andolfo on that one.
Sarah Beatty co-writing.
Yep, exactly.
And then I'm assuming you're solo on King Shark.
I'm writing it by myself. Scott Collins is drawing.
Right, Scott Collins. That's excellent. Fine artist, and of course, Money Shot with new arc and Claudia's full name,
or Caroline Lee Lane.
Yeah, or Caroline. Got him, old man. Hello, Claudia. Yeah, it's Caroline. Yeah, all right. Nice to meet you, Claudia. That's fantastic. Old man.
Yeah, well, you and me both, brother. Yeah,
that's all right, man. No, and excited for Aftershock, Bequest going on, and more Dark Red coming soon.
Absolutely.
So that's excellent, man. Seeley, well done, and excited for the movie again. The title for the movie again?
Revealer.
Revealer, soon to come to a festival near you, and looking forward to it cutting a good distribution deal. And yeah, man, that's great. When you're ready to do the audio commentary, I expect to be part of the team.
Oh, you in? Yeah.
All right, beautiful. All right, man. Well done, and thank you for your time. And everybody, thanks for watching Word Balloon Live. It's going to be a fun week. Tuesday, you got to watch because Joe Henderson is coming back to go over Lucifer Season 5B. Those last 8 episodes that were released this weekend, we are going to examine them, and it will be spoiler heavy. So for all you Lucy fans, you gotta jump on this. It's going to be Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, 1 p.m. Pacific. That way we can get the European crowd that's watching as well. So that's going to be very, very exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody. So thank you, everybody, saying thank you for watching. I appreciate that. Stay
Thanks,
safe.